Thank you for being here.
Pleasure. Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
yeah, no problem. John, this new album seems to grapple with heavy themes like grief and loss. But could you elaborate on how this influenced your songwriting and the album's overall direction?
Yeah. I think I need to rewind to around this August 2022, and we had our dog put down. We had him put to sleep.
Oh,
He was 17 years old, so he was an old dog. He'd had a good life. And I really thought that we were, yeah, not this dog. It's actually not that dog. It's a different dog. But
okay.
I ended up, my friend Jill did this artwork, and she's done the artwork for the last three albums. And her pieces always managed to come up in my life just at the right point when it connects with something that's happened. So, but yeah, so we had our dog put down, and the emotional impact was much more than I expected. And it, brought up these feelings that you mentioned: this betrayal, this deception, this grief, this mortality and death really into sharp focus. And then just as I was sort of feeling slightly better about things, let's say like 8 to 12 weeks after this, I had this, possible exposure with asbestos doing some renovations. And this was my life's worst fear. Um, and and if you add to this meeting my life's worst fear after the dog thing, this then brought this death into super sharp focus. I thought I was going to die, very quickly. I thought my family, if they'd been exposed a little bit in the same way, and I just completely lost it. And then this is when I found myself very quickly at the doctors, at psychologists, psychiatrists. I had a diagnosis for OCD, and doctors assured me that, if even if this exposure was for just 2 days, it would it wouldn't have a long-term effect on my health because it was a short exposure and all these kind of things. So with the therapy and all these things, I started to feel better about things. Um, and then I didn't really write music during this whole period. So this was a real like creative block. And really, I spent this time trying to improve my guitar technique, my piano skills. I tried, but it wasn't helping me write songs. I was just getting technically a little bit better. And then I went for coffee with my friend Craig Walker, who is a songwriter. He sang in the band Archive. And I told him about the shitty few months I'd had. Told him about the dog, about the asbestos thing, and he was like, John, what you've just told me in this last half an hour, he's like, this is an album. He's like, what you've just told me, that thing about the dog, all these different things. He was like, this is song one, this is song three. He was almost, saying, you've got the material right now. So he said, get home, just write down this same stuff you've told me. And then so I did. I got back, I started writing out some lyrics, and then very quickly the music came, and the whole album wrote itself within, a couple of weeks. The whole album was completely written, all lyrics, all music, super quickly. This was like a real turning point. And I guess at this time I was ready to emotionally get it out as well. Um, so yeah, it happened super quickly from that time.
Yeah, and how did channeling your grief into music help you through that time?
Yeah, it was super cathartic to do this. And like I said, I had this, I had like songwriting block for a period where I guess I wasn't ready to get it out. But then once it was at this stage, then it was so quick and it was so therapeutic to get it out, to get it into words, to get it into music. And for me, the music, it's like a push and pull with the music. Some music comes out and then that inspires some lyrics and then, oh, that line works really well and that pushes back into the music. And so it really comes together. They really inspire each other um, in that way. So, and I'm very fortunate that I'm a musician and I can get things out in this way. I don't know what I'd do if I weren't a musician. I don't know how I'd get it all out. You know what I mean? Like it would be difficult. So I'm I'm very grateful that I'm able to do this.
Yeah, totally. And can you tell us more about the collaboration with Greg? How did his encouragement and contributions shapes the final output of the album?
Yeah, it was great working with Greg. What usually happens is I work on a few songs by myself in Berlin. I go and see Greg. He used to be in Portland. Now he used to be in Portland on the West Coast. Now he's over on the East Coast in Richmond, yeah, Richmond, Virginia. Um, and we work on tracks from scratch, from nothing. It's best if none of us comes with too many preconceived ideas, maybe a few references, like I don't know, Pink Floyd meets Radiohead or something like this. Just as an example. And then we just start working on a track. And probably Greg's on the piano, I'm on guitar, and we just start. And we've known each other, we've worked together since university. So we're pretty good at feeling each other and knowing, I can say a reference or make it sound, yeah, let's try doing the piano a bit more Beatles style or something like that. And we can very quickly morph it into what we want because we know each other so well.
Yeah. And the album features multiple collaborations. Which
Yeah.
collaboration do you think was most memorable to you and why?
I mean, I loved having Annika come to Berlin. That was great. She came to Berlin and we did like all the vocal tracks in 4 days. It was really intense, but she's a great vocalist. We get on really well. That was lovely. Guy Pratt does the bass on this record. All of the bass apart from one track where we have John Sykes from Pineapple Thief. But Guy Pratt, I met through this friend Craig Walker that I mentioned. I met him at Source Full of Secrets. I met him a couple of times. And then we just talked, let's try something together. Let's try collaboration. At first, he was going to come to Berlin. We couldn't make it work out with schedules. So then we did it remotely, and it worked out fantastically remotely. He's such a good bass player that I would send him a song with my bad bass, like my bad bass skills, and then he would just do his really cool Guy Pratt thing, and that was really inspiring because the bass for me is like an afterthought. I focus on the song. Let's get the song, the dynamics right, the melodies right. So to have someone that's such a specialist on bass to do this was fantastic.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah.
And what about Dig Till You Die? It's the first single from the album. What
Yeah.
can you tell us about the inspiration and themes behind that track specifically?
So this one, let me have a look. I always have to have a little look at the words to sort of remind me. This one comes a lot from I was on this, I was going to see Greg in Portland and my flight was delayed and I had some time. I had to spend a night in Reykjavik in Iceland. And I got talking to this other guy that had got stranded there the same way I had. We were a similar age. He was from Seattle, and we talked about music and stuff like that. And then we got a bit philosophical talking about. He was telling me about his father-in-law and that he'd worked so hard all of his life. Then he bought this ranch in the States to have this perfect retirement, and within a few months, he passed away. So he'd done all this work so he could have this perfect time, and then that never came. And within another month, I'd heard a similar story, and it just got me thinking about, let's enjoy the time we have now. Like, let's not freak out about so much about financial worries and things like that. We've still got our health. Let's enjoy things. Let's just keep things in the present, one day at a time. When I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to be thinking, I wish I'd written more riffs in the studio. I'm going to be thinking, I wish I'd played more dinosaurs with my daughter. You know what I mean? So this is one of the aspects of this track was like, let's keep it in the present. Let's live now.
Yeah. And you recently talked about Guy Pratt's involvement and the influence on the musical direction, but on the bass lines on these albums compared to your previous works, what would you say that change?
I just think I mentioned for me, the bass is like an afterthought. It's not, for me, it's sort of like, it's not the least important thing, but when I'm building a song, I'm a guitarist, keyboard player, vocalist, songwriter. So bass comes very low down on those things for me. It's like, yeah, we need it for frequencies, and but I'm not thinking like in the same way that a bass player like Guy is, he's top of his game. He did the bass on Like a Prayer from Madonna, which is such a good bass line. He's done all the Pink Floyd stuff. So when you hear someone like this, really following the kick pattern, but also like putting in these extra, like almost like these melodic parts and stuff like that. Like he's putting in bass hooks, which I would never do. So he's bringing like a whole new dimension to this bass area, which I loved. So that's why, and he'd send something over, and then that would excite me again to then probably do something a bit greater musically. So that was really inspiring to have him involved.
Yeah, yeah. And Chloe Alper has been a significant part of the band history. How did you and the rest of the band adjust to continuing without her and welcoming Nick?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'd started some new demos for Coming Up to Consciousness, and it was kind of the time for adding some female vocal. And I found Chloe and we chatted, and she said, "Look, John, I'm so busy with my day job plus this British band, James, that I can sing on the record, but I just don't have time to do any live shows." And we'd done this with Above Cirrus, and it was super confusing for the fans because they were like, "Well, sings on the album, but she's not doing it live." And then it was just like, well, if we do this again, maybe this is more confusing than Annika, who's already here. She can sing on the record, she can do it live. Are we making this confusing situation even more confusing by doing this thing again? So we just decided, it totally makes sense for Annika to sing on the record, to do the live stuff, and Chloe's going to sit this record out. Who knows what happens in the future?
Mm.
Doors open. Maybe one day we'll have Chloe and Annika both on stage. That would be super cool. We could have
Super cool.
Companies would be amazing. But Annika's come in. She does a different thing to Chloe, and it's very difficult shoes to fit. But she does a great job, and we get on well. And the main thing is we can take Pure Reason forward. I didn't want to just stop this group because Chloe couldn't do it anymore.
Mm.
I love the songs we did in the past, the songs I wrote 20 years ago. I want to keep on playing them. So it's really important for me to keep going forward, to keep progressing, to keep making albums.
Yeah. And Nick joined the band for this record, but how did she integrate with the band? What are the unique qualities that she brings to the music, would you say?
Integrate. I mean, to be honest, she came in super, it was super easy. The first shows would have been in 2022. We did a small European tour, and she came into this, and we just got on really well. I sent her like the Chloe parts. She learned them really well. She played some keyboards in some of the tracks, and she just fitted in really well. We all got on very well, and it was just really natural. I'm not sure what else she brings. Like she brings like a really nice positivity to it. The vocal side, like I said, she came to Berlin and she sang the vocals. I already had guide vocals, and then she sang those and made them 10 times better. We worked on some harmonies together. She was really good on harmony ideas. So she brings a real versatility with her voice, whether it's high range, low range. Um, so that was inspiring to be around.
Yeah, very cool. The album was mixed by Bruce Sword and
Yes.
mastered by Steve Kitch,
Yeah.
and it also features John Sykes. How did working with them impact the album final sound?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I loved working with all of those guys. And I think to begin with, maybe halfway through recording, we started thinking about mix people. Bruce's name was mentioned. Bruce did a test mix of Useless Animal, and it was brilliant. So we just said, right, we'd love you to do the whole thing. Schedules worked out. Um, and it was just really good. Like I said, I loved working with him. And he said very early on, he said, John, mixing this like material is so natural to me because he's in this prog area too. He just said it was really easy and natural for him to do it. And so he contributed a few guitar bits here and there. And they just fitted straight away. So he'd send them and say, John, I'm not sure if you're gonna like this, but I was like, no, it's brilliant. Like, love the guitar, do some more of the guitar. And so the collaboration was really, yeah, it was really natural. Um, and yeah, everything just fitted together. So I definitely love to repeat the same thing in the future. Sure.
Yeah. And coming up to consciousness is the third album, post hiatus.
Yeah.
And how do you feel the band's dynamic and creative process have changed over these last few albums?
Has it changed? I suppose if we go back to the Dark Third, we did some demos at university that then we got Paul Northfield involved. So we sort of made these demos better by going into a posh studio and recording drums. We spent quite a long time in like a posh commercial studio. And I think some of that we didn't need to, some of it, like if you're recording guitars, you don't really need to be in a big studio paying $500 a day or something for the studio. So we learned things from the process. Definitely, if you're recording drums, you need to be in a nice room with some nice gear. But I'm in my studio in Berlin. It's 12 square meters. I can kind of do everything in here. I can record guitars. I can do vocals. Of course, I can do the keyboards. Um, the main thing is drums, where you still need this nice studio. Dynamics wise, I do still like doing some things alone in the studio. Sometimes I can do whole songs by myself in the studio. But I really love collaborations. I really love um, seeing Greg. I really love receiving a file through email from Guy Pratt. Hearing some new guitars from Bruce. I love collaboration too. And I think I need both. I need alone time. For some songs, I can just do it. And then other songs, it's like, oh God, I don't want to do another one by myself. And it's like, great, here's Greg. Let's work on 4 tracks together. And then I think I like this variation, some collaboration, some alone time. But making music with people is fun. And when you're by yourself, it's not much fun.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, collaborations I love, and it's like I said, it's fun. There's give and take with things, and yeah.
Okay. And the band is set to perform at various festivals in Europe soon. What are the plans beyond that for Pure Reason Revolution?
Yeah, we've got maybe 6 shows on the continent coming up at the end of September, October, and we've got some shows in England in December. But I really hope, and then sorry, in 2025 we're playing Cruise to the Edge festival that leads to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to get out and do shows. We need to get out. Hopefully, a support tour with Pineapple Thief, something like this would be perfect. So we're looking for support. Hopefully there'll be some more headline shows as well in 2025. But we need to have shows to get out to a wider audience, as well as making record by record. It's so important to get out there live, probably more so than ever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we will be
And,
doing more shows in 2025.
perfect. And reflecting on your career, what would you say has been the most significant change in your approach to making music from your early days at the university to now?
Mm. Mm. I think with each album, I've enjoyed the process more. Like with each album, I've enjoyed a bit more. I guess it's getting used to knowing what works, what doesn't work, what I like doing in the studio, what I hate doing. Like I hate doing things like drum edits. I hate it. So it's great having a drummer that can do that. You know, that's just a technical thing that I don't want to do. So the same way with mixing, I've written the song, I've produced the song. I don't want to mix it. That's why someone like Bruce is great because you think that I've done. There you go. It's yours now. You do the best you can do. So maybe it's like these learning things along the way that you don't like. I know I'm very fortunate to make music, to have a brilliant label like Inside Out that support us, that get behind us album after album. Um, and yeah, I guess, and what's different? Not a lot is different, I would say. I still sit down with my guitar, starts with a little vocal melody or a couple of chords, and then it just builds, you know, then you get on the computer, you start recording a little bit in, and that leads on to the next section. Sometimes I'll write a whole song on the guitar and then record it. Sometimes I'll just write a verse and then it will really go bit by bit. It will go verse, okay, now next section, chorus, then we go on a completely different section, record that section. So yeah, it can always change. Yeah.
Yeah, and fantastic job that the drummer that you brought to this album. The name escapes me right now, but
Ravi. His name's Ravi.
yeah, him. He did a fantastic job on the album, and congratulations for the overall album, but especially the drums. As a drummer myself, I love the work he's doing. Yeah, on
Oh,
this.
fantastic. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
Ravi's really cool.
yeah. And finally, John, looking ahead, what are the hopes and expectations that you and the rest of the guys on the band have for coming up to consciousness as it reaches your fans? How do you hope it will receive, and what impact do you want it to have?
Um, I think with this album, there's a few things that I wanted to approach differently. I wanted to avoid going back to my favorite chords like a D minor and sticking around D minor. So I dusted off my old jazz guitar book and I would get some inspiration just from a chord or something. And that would be enough to start me off on a song that tonally sounded different to before. And I also wanted to avoid some of the PRR cliches of, you know, quiet, loud, extreme. Of course, you get this on this album, you get the light and shade, but I just wanted to move away from like my old tricks a little bit. Um, and so some tracks on this album just stay laid back, you know, and that's fine. They can be laid back. I was listening to a lot of Spirit of Eden, Talk, and it's just all chilled. So this album could have just been all chilled, but you know, some chilled. So I think for some people, this maybe this album's not aggressive enough. It's not so hell for leather as some of the other ones, but that's okay because another album's going to come. We've got a super supportive label. They've taken up the option for the next record. They don't even know if this album's going to sell any copies, but they believe in us, and that's amazing that we've got such support from the label. We
Yeah,
want to progress as a band, and we will bit by bit with each record. Um, so I hope fans, you know, I know already that there's people connecting with the concept of this record, you know, with the animal aspect of it, and I really didn't expect this at first. But then like, you know, there's people sending in pictures of their beloved dogs and things like that. People that have lost animals in recent months, weeks, and that's really touching that people can share their experience and hopefully get something from our album that can help them in the grieving process and things like that. So yeah, it feels exciting to have this album that's about to come.
yeah. And with all the things that you've been through this last years, month, um, what would you say coming up to consciousness means to you?
Um, you know, it means a hell of a lot to me because it's probably like the hardest period of my life. Going back to this, you know, like the autumn time of this 2022. It's been a process to now. At the time, it was the most awful time of my life, but now I can actually look back on it as a positive. Now I can look back at it and be thankful for this time. It's taken, almost, I guess, a year and a half to get to this point, but I'm now thankful for all the experiences along the way. Um, and I think that while the album does have some, when I talk about it, it sounds depressing, some of the themes, but I do hope that there is a positivity in it. There is hope in it, and I hope that people get that from it, and you hear that in the music as well. Like I talk this light and shade. I hope that people, when it finishes, they get the hope at the end of the record.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah. And well, I'm about to close this interview because I think you have another one scheduled after this one.
that's
And
right? I do.
yeah, and any final words that you want to share with my audience and the people behind lots of music?
Um, I'm not sure what I want to share. When I was right in this time around the end of 2022, I was so busy focusing on things in the past, really freaking out about details of things that had gone wrong, what I could have changed. And this girl walked across the crossing in front of me with a car. And on her back, it said, breathe in the now. And I just thought, that's so perfect. There's nothing I can do about all this stuff in the past that I'm freaking out about, thinking, I wish I'd changed this. I wish I hadn't done that. And it was just breathe in the now. Let's just live today. So yeah, that's my message. Breathe in the now.
Yeah, thank you very much, for your time, and I hope to catch you on the road soon.
That would be great. Would love to see you. Thanks very much for the interview.
No problem. Bye bye.
Have a great weekend. See ya. Bye.